There's 4 things that kids are born to do or they're never going to do. One is tantrums, one is climbing, one is running, and one is hitting or biting. In other words, physical aggression.
How would you deal with toddlers interrupting adult conversations or interjecting to ask questions?
The longer you keep giving into these demands, the harder it's going to be to stop doing it.
I have a 24-month-old daughter who has recently started challenging me more.
They're just forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed upstairs. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and one of those you're a potato laying on a mattress. Your expectations are usually what get you in trouble. Welcome to the Bratbusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at Bratbusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Okay, sweetie, what are we talking about today?
Okay, today is when toddlers challenge you. So it's answers for biting, hitting, and more. What I've done, and we've done this before with toddler topics, is I have 10 listener questions because you often say you really need the scenarios for toddlers.
With toddlers, I do, yes.
And before we get into the toddler questions, maybe we'll just start out if it's someone's first time listening. What age do you consider to be a toddler?
16 to 35 months. I just made that up myself because under 16 years, they're sort of still babies. They're just learning right from wrong. From 16 to 35 months, they usually kind of know when they're doing something wrong. Okay, so you treat that differently, and they're a little bit older. And then at 3 years old, they can start to reason. So they can stop and think before they act, or they can learn how to stop and think before they act. That's when we use the behavior board. With toddlers, 16 to 35 months, we don't use a behavior board. They're not there yet. Was this the one? Because she started by saying, you're going to hate one of these topics because we usually film a couple at the same time. Was this the one?
Yes, this
Oh,
was
I don't
the one.
hate this. No, when toddlers challenge you. No.
Do you realize you said under 16 years instead of
Did I
under
say 16
yeah.
years? Well, obviously I meant 16 months.
Yeah, you were zoned out though. If anyone's watching the video, you were just looking down at your cord as you were saying it.
Was I? I've had a busy morning. Okay, so yeah, 16 months to 35 months is a toddler. Under 16 months, then you use it's indirect redirection. So if they do something naughty, you can say one word, just say no. That's teaching them that's wrong. And you just say no, no anger, no yelling, nothing like that. Just say no and then redirect. Say no, and let's go over here. Let's go do this or whatever. But you can do it that way, or you can use indirect redirection. If they're having a fit and they're screaming and having a tantrum, then you use indirect redirection. So you go sit in a corner and play blocks, something that they like, and you just play on your own, but don't look at them. The idea is they're going to forget about the tantrum and come toddling over and play blocks with you. That's the idea.
And then one last thing is, I think something to touch on is just parents' expectations of toddlers.
Toddlers are kind of crazy. Well, I always say that it's not so much that they're crazy. They just haven't developed sanity yet. They're just forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed upstairs. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and one of those you're a potato laying on a mattress. Your expectations are usually what get you in trouble. You'll say to them, don't do that again. No, mommy. You know that's naughty. That hurt, mommy. You want to be a good boy. Yes, mommy. And then they do it again. And the parents actually say to me, can you believe he did it again? I'm like, yeah, what's your point? Like, they're not listening to you. They need consistent corrective actions, and they learn through repetition. Might take 50 times before they learn, but they'll remember the one time you messed up. So you got to be consistent. That's why I always say, pick your battles, just deal with one battle per week or whatever. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. I got lots of videos on that, by the way. You can just Google Bratbusters toy rotation. Okay, number 3, connect with toddlers in their world, not your world. Their world is fun and play and action and rolling down the hill in the grass. Don't take them to the nail salon. Go roll down the hill in the grass with them. Number 4, you discipline toddlers in their world. And you notice everything's in their world, not yours. So they're about actions. They're not about words. When you want to discipline them, it's all actions. You use consistent corrective actions. You remove them from the fun or remove fun from them if they do something naughty. But you got to be very fast, right in the moment. They'll learn eventually, but it'll take a while. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. As I said, they're brand new, fresh human beings. They are not figure-outable because they're just not there yet.
Have we told the story about when I put the rice bubbles up my nose?
Okay, she put rice bubbles up her nose. Now, anyone who's from North America, rice bubbles is Rice Krispies, and I raised my kids in Australia. So anyway, she kept shoving these rice bubbles up her nose. And she'd done it before, but I managed to fish them out. I have long nails. I managed to fish them out. Well, this time they went up. I could see them coming out her eyeballs just about. She had tons of them up there. You were maybe 2. I mean, she wasn't a baby. She was maybe 2. And so I phoned the doctor and the doctor's office, and I said right away, I said, look, what do I do? She was looking all perturbed. It's the best way to say it. She was confused. She wasn't crying yet, but she didn't look happy. So I said, what do I do? While I was on the phone, she sneezed them all out. And the doctor heard, and he goes, I guess the call's over, eh? And that was it. But yeah, shoving all these rice bubbles up her nostrils. Kids are going to do it. Does it make any sense? Because she'd already done it previously. And I said, don't do that. No, Mommy, I won't do that. Didn't that hurt? Mommy had to stick her finger up your nose. And didn't that? Yeah, I don't like that. I won't do it again. Or whatever she was saying. She was just little. And then she did it again. And I'm like, yep, that's a toddler.
I just thought that was a good analogy for toddlers in general. And
then she did it again. She was 29 years old. And I was
this time with Rice Krispies instead of Rice
that's
Bubbles.
Right, because we're now in North America.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And I hope that if you're listening as well and you're a parent of a toddler, because you get so many questions about toddler scenarios. And I'm hoping that this will just make you feel a little bit less, what's the word? Like, I know
less frustrated.
Yeah. I see when parents are going through it. And again, I'm not a parent myself, but I see a lot of the questions that you get. And it just feels like your toddler's the only one doing this kind of stuff.
Well, you look around, open your eyes. There's a whole bunch of toddlers out there doing stuff. But yeah, also it's the reasoning with them. This is where you get tripped up. I talked to him. He said, I was sorry. I don't want to hurt you. I won't do it again. And then they do it again. Right. And your point being, like, words don't mean much to them. They're all about actions. It felt fun. It was fun to do. They're just trying stuff out. It's in the discovery stage.
Just wanted to see how big my nose could get.
Well, turns out pretty big. That's what I noticed. I think one nostril was a lot bigger than the other. Must be a lot up there.
Still to this day,
probably still some up there.
That's what I'm saying. Every time I go to blow my nose, just a Rice Krispie comes out.
Pop.
Okay, we'll get into the questions.
Well, actually, they've lost their crack popple. What's that called? Crack snap.
Oh yeah, they're rice softies.
Rice softies. Okay, we're done. Okay, yeah. We're gonna get the giggles and not be effective at all. Okay. Now I'm very self-conscious about looking at the wires because you said you're all zoned out looking at the wires. Sometimes when I'm looking at my wires here, I'm still thinking.
Okay, just not in that instance.
Not in that time. No, I wasn't.
Okay, so we have Patricia from Spain. Hi, Lisa. My 2.5-year-old bites, mostly his 1.5-year-old brother. Sometimes he bites at childcare too. At home, I respond the same way every time. No warnings, no yelling. I walk him to his room, say we don't bite, and close the door for 2 to 3 minutes. He used to cry, but now he just sits there calmly, like it doesn't faze him at all. I don't punish if I didn't see it or see bite marks, but I remove the toy if that was the trigger. What makes this harder is that his brother is usually the instigator, grabbing toys, getting in his face. I coach him to say no, and I moved his brother away, and if it works, if I catch it in time. Oh, and it works if I catch it in time, but sometimes it happens too fast. The biting stopped at childcare after a couple of months of starting, except during weeks when we've had visitors or changes at home. Then he will bite at childcare again. I'm doing my best, but I feel stuck. Is it time to try a boring chair like they use at school, or should I stay the course? Thank you.
I didn't quite understand the shutting the door. Was he in some room by himself?
That was my assumption.
Okay. So the little one doesn't know any better. They are going to bug the older one, so that you can't really go after the little one, which I usually say you do if they're older. You go after the instigator, not the one who retaliates. But anyway, in this situation, I would go after the older one. But what I would do also is I'd say no, and then I'd give the toy back to the little one or whatever is going on. And then I would fuss over the little one. Are you okay? Give them all a bunch of loving. So yeah, the little one you want to give all the attention to and say, it's okay, it's okay. And then the other one, that is part of their punishment. But then after that's over, then you go right back to normal. You don't discuss the biting. You don't discuss bad behavior. You just get more of it. Where you put your energy, where you put your focus is what grows. So you do want to teach them a lesson, but keep it short and sweet, or sweet and short and sour, whatever. So keep it short and then move on. But yeah, fuss over the victim, in addition to taking the toy away. So that could be it. Also, it might just take time. It's 2.5 years old, might just take time. Also, one more thing. is, oh, I'm looking down at the wires again. Anyway, one more thing. I'm making a bow out of them. It was pretty. Okay, one more thing is there's 4 things that kids are born to do or they're never going to do. One is tantrums, one is climbing, one is running, and one is hitting or biting. In other words, physical aggression. It's in their DNA, so it's going to take longer to get it out because they're just sort of born to try these things. Some kids will never do any of those things. Someone said I was doing a live once and they said, oh, my kid does all 7. It's only 4 of them. I thought that was really cute. Anyway, so yeah, it's just something. It's not your fault that they do these things, but it is your responsibility to train them out of them. But it does take time.
Okay, we have Andrea from Croatia. I have a 24-month-old daughter who has recently started challenging me more. She's begun saying no to things seemingly just for the sake of saying no and refusing to do tasks I know she's capable of, like putting on shoes or holding my hand when we cross the street. For example, if she didn't put her shoes on after I asked twice, I end up doing it for her. She may kick or scream a little, but it's not a major tantrum. Once the shoes are on, she calms down and we go about our day as usual. I try not to get angry or frustrated, and I focus on the positive behavior as much as I can, as I know that helps. I'm starting to wonder if this behavior is her way of getting attention, possibly because she now has a 9-month-old baby sister. Could she be saying no simply to get me to step in and do it for her?
Maybe not. I don't know. They're just going to try stuff. Don't overanalyze it. Okay, that's what you're doing wrong here. You're overthinking it. Just deal with the behavior, not the meaning behind it, because there probably isn't much. She's just trying stuff out. Also, you said I asked her to put her shoes on twice. I don't repeat myself. So the first time I say, okay, let's get your shoes, I don't necessarily ask them to do something. I would say, okay, let's get our shoes on. And I would start putting mine on. If she's not trying to put hers on, then I would just put hers on right afterwards. So I would do it the first time. I don't repeat myself. She's already kind of won a little bit of ground by you repeating yourself. If you do repeat yourself, they've just understood that, wait a minute, I don't have to do anything the first time. You see? You just kind of trained her. So yeah, I thought there was something else there I'm missing. She's just going to try stuff. She's just exercising her own independence. That's all she's doing.
Maybe the one thing you wanted to touch on was the holding the hand across the street.
Holding the hand across the street. Yeah. If she doesn't want to do it anyway. Like you are, but she already said she does. So you're doing the right thing. So you just grab her hand. I think she said, I grab her hand anyway. Did she say that?
Not specifically.
In my head, you said I grab her hand anyway. So grab her hand anyway. No, I don't want to hold your hand or whatever she says in her, little 2-year-old voice. So no, you just grab it anyway. And you might have to pick her up under your arm. If you are picking them up when they're doing something naughty like that, they won't hold your hand. Don't pick them up in a nice way. What I mean by that is don't have them on your hip, right face to face. I might just sort of cart them under my arm not upside down, but you know what I mean? Just sort of grab them and maybe carry them facing away from you and just put them down on the other side of the street. So it's not a cuddle hold. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't want to cuddle them after they've said no to you. You cringed when I said that. Don't pick them up in a nice way. I meant don't pick them up and cuddle them. You know what I mean? But you just sort of maybe face them away from you. You're just sort of grabbing them to get them across the street kind of idea. And then hold her hand. And if she starts kicking and screaming, then just let her have the tantrum where she is, as long as it's safe. And then afterwards, then say, okay, let's get going. If she doesn't, then pick her up. Same way. Like a potato sack more.
Okay, the next question is Daniel from the United States. My 2-year-old and 8-month-old my 2-year, 8-month-old just started running away when we were getting ready to leave the park or a pool. It happened when my wife was carrying our 6-month-old and managed to run away from the pool all the way to a nearby pond where she was yelling and chasing him. I was surprised to hear that and mentioned that he hasn't done that with me. Well, I promptly ate my words because later that week, as we were packing up to head back to the car, he took off across the park and didn't stop until I chased him down and grabbed him. My question is, how do I use consistent corrective actions if the action itself requires me to chase him, which fuels his desire to run? He thinks it's a game, thinking about attaching a harness before we tell him that we're going to head to the car. Thanks.
Yeah, maybe you've listened to me before. I always say, if you've got a runner, you put a harness on them before you even have to go. And then you be ready for them to run. And he's almost 3, by the way, so 2.5. So he can understand this and say, if you run, I'm going to clip you into this leash. And this is about safety, keeping them alive. So make sure that harness goes on before he's ready to run. So you're just going to have to just be ready for it. Expect him to run, by the way. And then you said he didn't do it before. Yeah, he's just learning how to do this. That's why you didn't see it first time. Plus, he probably knew that the wife was more vulnerable holding the baby.
You think kids have like a innate sense when you've bragged about the fact that they haven't done a certain thing in front of you?
I'm pretty sure if you brag about your children, they're going to make a liar out of you right that day, right that minute. This was quite funny, actually. This woman wasn't quite like that. She was just bragging about her son, and she didn't even stop after this happened. She's bragging about how intelligent and how good her kid is. And this kid was about 4, like he wasn't a toddler, and toddler is under 3. So he was old enough. Anyways, he was on the ground chewing on her ankle, gnawing on her ankle while and she didn't even stop bragging. That was the funny part. I guess she was hoping we wouldn't notice. This kid is not, and drawing blood. I mean, this kid was mad. He wanted to go, and mom was standing there bragging about him. Pretty hard to get to convince people he's a great kid when he's gnawing on your ankles. It was really funny.
Here we get into the next question. So Tiffany from the United States. My son has freaks out if I step away for just a few seconds, whether it's to another room in the house or even with me opening the door of the car to get out first. He's 2.5 years old. I always have to run back to show him I'm here. Taking him out of the car is also the very first thing I do. I've never left him in there. How do I get him to stop freaking out over me being a few steps away? He starts school in August and I'm nervous of his reaction.
Well, you said you have to. Why do you have to? I'm assuming he's not scared. You already said he's never been abandoned. If he was abandoned at one time, I would say, well, yeah, that's a different thing. That would be coaching. By the way, that's more trauma. But yeah, if he just doesn't want you moving away and crying will bring you back, he's going to keep doing it. So yeah, if you're right there and you're just getting out of the car and he starts crying, I would just ignore it and go about my business. Be ready for it though. And then just be ready to keep moving as if he's not even making a sound. That would be my gut reaction to that. Because he's trained you, because you said, I have to. That's what triggered that. And I thought, oh, he's trained you very well. Yeah, all I have to do is kick and scream and act like I'm terrified and mom will come back. I'll get whatever I want.
You do see, again, not a parent, I just do marketing here, but I do see in a lot of the questions phrasing like, I have to, my toddler makes me, I need to. What is your thought around that?
Well, you don't just do the marketing, you also do all the planning. So
I wanted to preface that I know very little about children.
although you've worked with kids and you were really good with them. So I think you know more than you think you do. Anyway, I forgot what the question was. I was just thinking about.
More just the understanding that parents phrase sometimes like the toddler is calling the
Well,
shots.
what they're saying is, I can't handle the scene. That's all I ever hear is I had to do it because he was having a fit. And I'm like, well, so in other words, you just for your own mental health had to go back. So yeah, you had to do it for your sake. The thing is, you're digging your own grave with all that, short-term gain for long-term pain. I'd rather do short-term pain for long-term gain. I think I actually said that correctly. Anyway, so it's harder initially, but then it's going to pay off down the road. The longer you keep giving into these demands, the harder it's going to be to stop doing it. And they're training you when they do that. But I see this all the time. Parents say, well, I didn't want to, but I had to. You should see the tantrum he was having. I'm pretty sure I've seen those tantrums and I've never given into one. So, and they start to diminish in frequency, intensity, and duration over a period of time. Doesn't happen right away.
Okay. The next question is Jocelyn from the United States. My daughter is 22 months and has just recently started hitting herself in the head. She learned this from a cousin and does it to try and be funny. Do I ignore this behavior or use a consistent corrective action? If so, do you have any suggestions for a consistent corrective action? Thanks so much.
Well, there's this thing, it's a foam helmet, and I don't know where it is or anything. You can just buy it online. Evidently it's for children who have seizures or whatever. So a lot of my clients have bought these things. So you can get it online, like for older kids, right? So it's just a little foam helmet. It literally just looks like one of those ice pack foam things. Like it's, you know what I mean? It's not a pretty thing, but it's basically to protect their head. So every time she hits her head, you say no, and you put the helmet on her head. She will connect the dots. What's interesting about that is I never think that's going to work that well. It evidently works very fast. They hate having that helmet on. And supervise them when they've got it on because it goes under the chin. It could be a safety hazard. I don't know. I'm just trying to make sure you're cautious with this. But yeah, if you want to invest in one of those foam helmets, it's the quickest way I've ever found to stop that behavior.
Okay. I'm glad you put the disclaimer in there.
I knew you would. I did that for you. No, but I always say that because in coaching, I always say that too. I don't know how safe those things are.
Okay, we have Sue from Canada. My son is 28 months old, and I've been learning from Brat Busters for about 6 weeks. The advice on how to ignore tantrums has helped shorten them and decrease their frequency. I still struggle with the end of the tantrum. When my son is calmed, I say, "You're all right, ready to go play?" He relishes in the attention and dives back into sulking. After a while, we end with a forbidden post tantrum cuddle, or B, I never say anything, ignore, ignore, ignore. Eventually, he just starts to play again. Do you think my continual ignorance is the way to go, or is he controlling my ignoring by getting the first words in after his tantrum?
I didn't quite understand the sulking. What difference does it make if he sulks? Like, why are you, is that bothering you? Like if I said to a kid, so he's finished having a tantrum, "Oh, you all done? Do you want to go play a game?" And he's all sulky, but he doesn't come with me to play a game. I'd say, "Okay, never mind." And I'd go off and do the dishes or something. You've offered. Don't worry about whether he does it or not. You offered. That's the olive branch. You want to do that. So once you've disciplined, or once they've had a tantrum, then you connect after that. So, and once you've disciplined too, let's say that they're older and you've done some discipline, you said, "Okay, you have to do a chore because you broke the rule." Then that's done, then you say, "Oh, do you want to go play a game?" You always want to connect after the negative stuff, right? So yeah, he's just trying to control you. So yeah, do you want to play a game? No, no, no. Say, "Okay, never mind. Go do the dishes."
Okay, we have Ashley from Australia. 2 years and 11 months, my first baby. She doesn't like when strangers say hi to her, so I tell her to say, "No, thank you," thinking it's more polite. If she doesn't want to say hi back, otherwise she just says no to them and turns her head and they look at me like a certain way. I don't want to have to make her say hi to a stranger. Is that wrong? She is now starting to say no thank you to kids at her playgroup when they say hi to her, so this has backfired on me. How do I tell her to say hi to kids and be kind, but not to strangers? Do I just practice saying hi to everyone now? Don't want to confuse her.
It's very cute. "Hi there, Lisa." "No, thank you." It's very
It's
cute.
very wholesome.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't worry about it. Just let her say no and ignore that person. Just say, "She's just shy. No big deal." So then you said people look at you a certain way. If you're worried about what other people think, you're almost always going to do the wrong thing. So just say, "Yeah, no, she's just shy." Anyway, and then just talk to them. Anyone who understands kids is going to go, "Yeah, okay." Like it wouldn't dawn on me at all to think that was weird. Just she's 11 months old, for goodness sake, even with little toddlers. I'll sometimes say, "Hi, how are you?" And they'll just ignore me or whatever. And I'm like, whatever. Sometimes the mother will apologize. "Oh, sorry." And I'm like, "That's okay." It was like big deal. Don't force them to not be shy.
She's 2 years and 11 months,
Oh,
so
2 years and
she's
11
probably
months.
35 months.
Still the same thing. Toddler, same thing. I don't force them to be friendly. I just don't. A lot of parents want to push social manners onto children. And yeah, 11-month-old is not going to be saying, "No, thank you." But I'd rather do that. Yeah. So sorry about that. But anyway, I was looking at the wires again. You see, that's I've been looking at wires. Okay. So yeah, exact same thing. Don't force them. "Nah, she's just shy." "Oh, well," and then just ignore. If you ignore that behavior, it's less likely to continue. If you give it a lot of attention, no, what you should say, "See, she wants the attention for it too." Maybe, or maybe she's just shy. Either way, don't feed it.
That was like me with the where the lady said hi to me and I was like very young and I snubbed her.
Yeah, and then the lady said, "Oh, I didn't know I said something wrong." I said, "No, I just told her not to talk to strangers." I was right there. So I meant when you're out at school, you know what I mean, but across the fence if you're at preschool or whatever. But yeah, and I said, "You could have said hi then." Then she went, "Oh, hi." But yeah, I just told her not to say hi to strangers. So the lady laughed with me. It's no big deal. Yeah, don't force manners on little kids. They'll learn eventually. That's not rude. Just turning their head or saying no. I don't consider that rude. Like it is a little bit, but it's not something that I would address. There you go. It's more in the attitude department.
So how do you approach that though?
Oh, another thing I would say to that adult, "Can you just ignore her now, please?" I don't like it when I say, "Oh, they're just shy, just ignore them," or whatever. And then that adult says, "Oh, but why? I'm friendly." That's what I don't like. Don't let other people push themselves on your little ones. Just say, "Can you just ignore her?" And then if they keep pushing, I'd say, "I said ignore her, please." You know what I mean? Then there's kind of weird. That person's kind of weird if they don't respect it the first time. So I'm talking about strangers here. But yeah, don't let people push themselves on your kids. I've seen that before and I've told them, "No, don't do that."
So now how do we approach it though with the kids at playgroup?
At playgroup.
Because now she's saying no thank you to all the kids at playgroup who say hi.
Yeah, I kind of trained her to say that. So they say hi. I would just say hi back to other kids. And it took a while to get her to say no thank you. It'll take a while for her to say hi. It'll sort itself out. This stuff's all temporary.
It's like when you couldn't stop me from saying you're welcome.
Well, I was training her manners, like say please and thank you. So I said to her, I said, okay, so she said please, which to her was quoi. And then I said, okay, say thank you. And she go, thank you. And then I'd say, you're welcome. She go, welcome. I said, no, 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 just mommy. Mommy says thank you. No, you say thank you. And then that's it. So she went, thank you. And then I walked away and I went, welcome. Like I just couldn't not say you're welcome. And then I'd hear, welcome. So one word she said perfectly, you're welcome. The only words she said really well was the ones I didn't want her to say.
That's kids for you.
That was cute. Yeah, they're adorable.
Okay, we have Lauren from Australia. Hi, Lisa. I have a 7-month-old and a 31-month-old. I'm completely overwhelmed with how violent my toddler is to my baby. I cannot look away for a second. I can't even use the bathroom without him racing over to grab him, push, pinch, or hit him. Is there really no point in discipline before 3? He's so close to it, I feel like he could understand.
Yes and no. He might understand, but getting him to go along with it, getting him to have the ability to stop and think before he acts is the problem. That's where at 3 they can start to learn impulse control. He's not there yet. It's 36 months, but really it could be 35, maybe 34, but not 31 months. You can try it if you really want to, but I'm not recommending it because it generally doesn't work. Yeah, just watch him like a hawk. I wouldn't trust him at all. Watch him like a hawk. It's temporary. Okay. By the time he's 3, you can have it on the behavior board. No hurting your little brother or little sister, whatever. So then you can have a consequence. But right now, just watch him like a hawk. It's just part of it. When you have kids close together, that's part of it. And they don't all hit, but if they do, it's just physically draining. Toddlers and babies are physically exhausting. Toddlers are my least favorite age. And it's not because, they're cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. They were my least favorite age to raise because not at home. I like them at home, but whenever I went out, oh my God, you had to watch them like a hawk. They didn't know, you know what I mean? They were just dangerous. So it was my least favorite age to take them out. Toddlers are physically draining, but not at home for me because, well, they weren't close in age, so I didn't have one hitting the other. But also, I completely childproofed my whole house, so I never had to worry about them. But when I went out, yeah, I had to worry about them.
Okay, the next question is Janelle from Australia. How do I get my 16-month-old daughter to sit in her car seat and let me strap her in? She doesn't want to go into her car seat, so she stands and tries to climb out of it. I can usually put her in no worries for the first trip of the day, but not for subsequent trips. I feel it's because she's bored during car rides. I give her toys, but she usually throws or drops them after a while or loses interest.
Yeah, I never gave kids toys in a car because they drop them, then they have a tantrum because they can't get them again. So yeah, the car, but we did do a lot of singing in the car. I was always entertaining my kids when we were driving. I was always talking to them. So she's 16 months old. She doesn't want to get in a car seat. This is really common. They go stiff as a board or else they go convex, the other way. They go complete. What's that called when they go the other way? They're not just straight as a board. They go they really arch their back. Anyway, so my friends and I used to call it the karate chop. We'd hold them over the car seat, and then as soon as they'd take a breath or weaken, we'd fold them in, like at the waist, we'd fold them in, snip, snip, get them in there, and then just let them scream it out. And they learned that when I say we're getting in the car, it's going to happen. The longer you take, the worse it is. Like if you're say, okay, we'll give it another go, or how about we'll do it in 5 minutes? No, once you said we're getting in the car, you hold them over the car seat, and as soon as you can, bend them in the middle and clip them in as fast as possible. You don't get eye contact and you don't talk to them.
Okay, we have one final question. So
and look calm. If you look angry, it's not working. You got to look completely calm. Look off into the distance. You can even hum to yourself. Okay, sorry about that.
No. Okay, so final question, Kara from the United States. How would you deal with toddlers interrupting adult conversations or interjecting to ask questions, saying mummy, mummy repeatedly, etc.? Would you handle this differently at family dinner versus a dinner out with adult friends? I just have a 9-month-old, so I'm not there yet, but I see this happen to all of my friends with older kids, and I'm curious.
Okay. Let's say you go out to a restaurant. I always brought a goodie bag whenever we went out, and I made sure it had different things in it each time. And I fed my kids before we went out. And then by the time we got there, they didn't have to eat. If they didn't like the food, they weren't hungry and not eating it anyway, so they were already kind of full. Then I would order something little for them to have. So I gave them something to do, in other words, instead of bothering me. If you're just at home and they're interrupting you, I would just say no, and I would keep talking and let them continue. Now, how old was this kid? I don't think she said.
No, so she said that she has a 9-month-old, but she sees this with her friends'
Oh,
kids who
I
are
see.
older.
Sorry. Yeah, that's why I was confused. Okay. But yeah, just say no and keep talking anyway. You might want to sort of slowly walk away, the two of you talking, but you just say no and then you keep talking. In other words, don't let it work. Don't. I see this all the time. It used to drive me nuts when my friends would answer all their kids' questions. My kids never came near me. If I was talking to someone, they knew, you do not bother mom, because I played hard with them. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was with them all the time. I played hard with them. When I said scram, or if I'm talking to someone or on the phone, they never came near me. They just knew. There was manners, right? Manners. But I was playing hard with them. Sometimes the only time kids get attention is when they are being a pest. Think about that. Do you play with your kids? I played hard with my kids. I really played a lot with them in their world, so that when I did say scram, they were fine. Their cup is already full. Their love language is play. Is their cup full? Maybe not. Maybe they're doing it because you don't give them any attention if they're not interrupting.
I do remember staying very silent when you were talking to adults.
Yeah.
Unless you invited me into the conversation.
That's right. That's right. And also, if you had friends over, I wasn't bugging you.
No.
Yeah.
Two-way street.
Respect. It's mutual. If it's not mutual, it's not respect. It's just authority, dictatorship. So yeah, I respected you with your friends too.
Okay. That was it for questions.
Okay. It is kind of a trippy. I'm really tripping out today. I don't know these wires. I don't know what's going on with me. Anyway, I'll be honest. I'm kind of tired today. I was looking after my granddaughter. She's a toddler, and I had to cart her around a lot. My back's always sore, so that night I never sleep well. So that's what I'm going through today. Just sore old lady back. Anyway, but toddler stuff, the reason it's a little bit tricky is because they don't learn right away. And parents often try to reason with them. These mini therapy sessions discussing all their big feelings, big emotions, all their behaviors, things they shouldn't do, things they should do. That's for you. That's not for them. They need instant, consistent corrective action over a period of time. So repetition and consistent. That's really important too. If you do it 9 times out of 10, they remember the one time you did it wrong. So you got to pick your battles. Pick just one thing that you're going to work on each week. Master that, then move on to the next. So yeah, toddlers just don't always make sense. Don't try and make sense out of them. They're just kind of nonsense sometimes. They're brand new. They're just forming. They don't have common sense yet. A lot of adults don't, but okay, common sense it takes a while. And we don't learn. This is all humans. We don't do the right thing and not do the wrong thing because we know we should or we know we shouldn't. We do it or we don't do it because of consequences. It's quite fascinating that parents don't get this, because you pay your taxes on time because if you don't, there's a consequence. You're going to be fined, right? And yet you expect your kids to do the right thing just by being told they should. It's fascinating. I find that fascinating that adults don't get that. That I already told them they shouldn't do it. Yeah, the tax department said you should pay your taxes on time, and you still don't do it unless there's a fine. You see what I'm saying? We all us adults operate on consequences, and yet you think your kids should just be told what to do and what not to do. You think they're different from you? You're more developed, and you still need consequences. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're just lecturing their kids over and over and over again, not realizing that they're not learning anything because you're not doing it right. They need consequences.
I can understand the viewpoint of they think that maybe that it should come from within, kind of the same way, like self-discipline,
but that's how we learn. We learn how to be self-disciplined because we've learned enough times what it's like to not do the right thing. There might be punishment afterwards, like at school. You might have to stay after school because you didn't finish your report, or you know what I mean? Like there's all sorts of consequences. That is basically how we learn. We learn through consequences. That's how we learn to be accountable. And then parents will say, but they should want to be good. I'm like, do you want to pay your taxes? Do you want to never speed or never just roll through a stop sign? Or, you see, what's the difference? Is there anything that you really would like to do wrong, but you do it anyway and there's no consequence? Like, would you continue doing the wrong thing if there's no consequence? Maybe. We tend to expect less from ourselves and more from our kids, and they're just kids. I really find that fascinating. Why do you expect so much from your kids and so little from yourself? If you don't pay your mortgage, you get kicked out, you lose your house. If you don't pay your rent, you get kicked. There's consequences for you. So why does that make sense for you and not for your kids? Yeah, it's just the way it is. And then also what's interesting is, my kids, they were pretty self-disciplined because they knew if they didn't do the right thing or if they did the wrong thing, mom would come in with a consequence. So they just learn knee-jerk reaction to do the right thing. And that tends to bleed into a lot of stuff. So they just sort of lean into making good choices. That's the way I look at it. I never tried to stop my kids from doing something naughty. I let them do it, and then I came in with a consequence. I wanted that lesson. There's no lesson in being told, don't you do that. There's no lesson in that. The lesson is, oh, go ahead, do whatever you want. And then after they did it, then there'd be a consequence. That's the lesson. They don't learn. A lot of adults don't have self-discipline, but chances are they weren't disciplined growing up because it's a skill that you learn. So we talk about disciplining kids as if it's a negative. I just look at it like teaching them to be responsible, teaching them to be accountable for their decisions. And I never wanted to tell kids what to do. I want to lay down the rules and the boundaries like there is for me in life too. And then it's their choice whether or not they follow that. And if they don't, then I'll come in with a consequence. No anger, just, well, you made a poor choice. Here's your consequence. Kids get this. It's funny because kids get this. Adults don't always. They really want to just be able to say a few magic words and their kids are going to do whatever they want.
I guess that's coming from the parents wanting to think that their kids are just innately good.
That's a tough one for me to answer because being good and maybe making a mistake or doing, like, you're still good if you don't make your bed. You're not a bad person because you leave your dirty dishes on the table instead of putting, see what I mean? It's not necessarily good or bad. So I see where you're going with that. I do, but because I've been working with kids since I was 11, like, volunteering with kids, I just always kind of understood this. I always understood that the way they're going to learn is that if there's a consequence, if they make a poor choice. I understood that at 11. I was volunteering in daycare centers, and I understood, and then I started babysitting at 11 too. I understood that. I never tried to tell a kid what to do. They already knew right from wrong usually. And if they chose the wrong choice, I'd say, oh, okay, well, we were going to start, plus I was babysitting. Well, we were going to start playing a game tonight, but I'll tell you what, I was going to start at 8, but now we're going to start at 8:15 because you did that. Oh, sorry, Lisa, that's okay. We'll just delay it a little bit. And they learned that. They learned. Actually, it was amazingly easy. I couldn't believe how easy it was. We all learn through consequences, but make them fair and reasonable. And if you yell, you're not a leader. So don't yell. No anger, no frustration, no disappointment. If you bring any of those negative emotions into it, it doesn't work. It's got to be very calm, very fair and reasonable. And it's got to be mutual too. If I make mistakes, I'm accountable. And I remember once I was babysitting these kids and I promised them I was going to bring something over that I had. I can't remember what it was, but they wanted something they wanted to play with something that I had. I don't know, some racket or something. I can't remember what it was. And I forgot. And I remember these kids said to me, well, you forgot, you promised you were going to bring them and you forgot. What are you going to do to make it up to us? Now, I would have been about 12 or 13 when that happened. I taught those kids that I was accountable. And sure enough, I brought them over something next time. I brought them something extra next time. They were little. They weren't even my kids, but they understood that I was accountable. You want to be accountable also because they're watching you. So you want to lead them by example. Anyway, I think that's enough.
I think we're good.
I think we're good. Okay, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back again next time talking about parenting yet again. Happy parenting. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out bratbusters.com to learn more about the behavior board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit bratbusters.com/disclaimer.